Okay, I think we have everyone. Oh, I'm just going to move my cat, sorry. Okay, morning everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our roundtable discussion today in honour of International Women's Day. This day celebrates the amazing things that women in various industries have accomplished and what boundaries they've had to overcome. The day is also used to highlight the disparities, issues and stereotypes that women still face today. When these issues are brought to light and people take notice, we can then make the changes to reduce the issues present in various industries all over the world. This is why I think roundtables like this are really important, because they help spread the word, share stories, and open people up to the idea of challenging gender stereotypes, so that some behaviours and attitudes shouldn't be accepted, they should be challenged, and it's okay to do that. For this roundtable, we've got amazing women from various sectors in the North East who are all keen to raise awareness against bias and make change to ensure this isn't an issue in the future or for future generations. We have Jenny from Networking Know Who, Manu from Sunderland Culture, Catherine from Kildare Observatory, Leslie Ann from Komatsu, and Jenny from Newcastle Uni, who are all here today to share their stories, thoughts and opinions for today's discussion. So with that, I guess we'll dive straight in if everyone's ready. So the first question, which I think will be a good discussion point, is what does International Women's Day mean to you? Jenny, do you want to start?
Yeah, I've got a lot of this is one of the happy days of the year for me, I think, on a professional level and a personal level. I've done some events in the past and stuff, and then obviously I feel like every year there's more and more stuff in the world of work that's coming out to celebrate International Women's Day, which is just fantastic. For me, I think it's a day that you can actually sit and reflect, and it's almost like a different new year as well. I use International Women's Day as a day of going, right, what have I done in the last year as a woman, I'm quite a new mum as well. I've only been a mum for 18 months, so and I've got a daughter, so I think International Women's Day is becoming more important as I'm trying to, turn myself into a role model for her as well. And just a day to celebrate each other, because women, we've almost got it ingrained in us to compete with each other in a lot of senses ever since we're young, as young girls at school. The boy likes me, doesn't like you, or I'm a faster runner than you, or whatever. But in work, it's there's still some levels of competition there, whereas today's very much feels like a day where we can go, do you know what, we need to stick together and remind each other how amazing we are, and we achieve so many different things all the time. It's just a great day to celebrate the ladies. Yeah, it's a great holiday.
So true. What about you, Anne-Marie?
Just similar. I think it's an opportunity to celebrate and just highlight some of the great things that women have achieved.
Yeah, that's very true. What about you, Catherine? Any thoughts? What does a day mean to you?
I really like the idea of reflection that Jenny brought up, and we all work so hard, we're all fulfilling different roles. The men in our lives are fulfilling different roles, and this is a day to actually sit back and maybe reflect on those roles and where we've been and where we've come from, and the fact that we do stand on the shoulders of giants and giantesses in all of this. And I think we need to pay tribute to that, and we certainly do with International Women's Day of Science, for example, a couple of weeks ago. And really, just maybe one of the things I find difficult is the discourse around this tends to kind of go straight to outrage, and with social media, and actually just taking a day to step back and reflect on our discourse and our level of discourse, I think is really important.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I hadn't really considered it as a day of reflection, but it's actually a really good day to do that. What about you, Manu?
I think echoing with everyone's points on it being a day of reflection, it is a reminder of who we were, what women went through, what struggles they went through to get us to where we are right now, and what we can do right now for the future. To me, it is all about courage. It is about resilience, and it is about empowerment, all embodied in this day. I mean, these days we're so busy with our lives, even if it is COVID or not, we are actually busy day to day. We celebrate this day every day, but taking a day out of our busy lives to actually focus on women is just amazing. So to me, this day is just fantastic.
Yeah, it is a good day. What about you, Jenny? Jenny with a Y.
Jenny with a Y. So for me, I just think it's a really good day for like the community as a whole of women. I just think in STEM, that is, and other industries, because working in, say, male-dominated sectors can be quite isolating. And I just think with International Women's Day, you always get to meet so many other women who are amazing at whatever it is they're doing. And, you don't always see that. And every year I just find out about so many awesome women, such as yourself, and it's just such a great day for community.
That is very true. It is quite isolating being in a male-dominated industry. Yeah, I agree. And yeah, it is a great way to meet women and find out what other women are doing, which is amazing. It's always interesting. So where did your love for engineering come from, Jenny?
With an I or a Y?
I'm not an engineer by any means, so I hope
Jenny with a Y. So for me, I actually didn't know what engineering was until I was like 16. It was something that it wasn't even on my radar. And like if you'd asked me what an engineer was, I'd have been like, trains, boring. It wasn't interested. But I really love maths and I really love science, but I was also really creative. Like I love doing art and stuff like that. And actually someone at my college, I went to sixth form college, someone pulled me aside and said, there's this competition for girls in engineering. It's about like how can you help like change the world. I think you'd love it. It's like a design challenge. And I was like, and I gave it a go and I designed a new type of prosthetic elbow, and that was it. I was hooked because I realized you could do something that would help people and also use all of those skills. Like I'd always like, I want to do medicine, but I don't want to be a doctor. So then when I realized I could be a biomedical engineer, I was like, this is just best of both worlds. I love this, and just loved it ever since, really.
Yeah, I literally know the feeling. What about you, Anne-Marie? Because you work in a different sector of engineering.
Yeah, my journey with Komatsu has been pretty amazing, actually. Again, when I was 16, I didn't know what engineering was. Basically, there was an advertisement for Komatsu and I was more attracted by the company, getting my foot in the door. I wasn't really sure what an engineer was, hadn't crossed my mind. So I basically put in for the application, not expecting to get it. And little did I know that I would become one of the first modern apprenticeships in engineering, and that was 27 years ago.
Wow.
That's impressive.
So as part of the apprenticeship, I learned some fantastic key skills. I learned how to spray paint. I learned how to weld.
So cool.
Assembly, some really useful skills in life that I think is a little bit underestimated as well.
Yeah, definitely. Very, very useful to have those kind of skills, especially in the industry. What about you, Catherine? Where did your love come from?
Well, I think I'm in a slightly different position to the other ladies because I've had lots of different careers in my life, because I'm kind of guessing I'm a bit older than the rest of you. And I think one of the really important messages we need to get across today is employability is not the be all and end all of education and training. It's about being the best citizen of the world that you can be, no matter what situation you find yourself in. Mm-hmm. And that's really been my overriding goal, is like, have I left a good wake behind me? Am I making a positive impact? And that has really, really fired my career, whether I've been in retail, whether I've been in arts and culture, whether I've been in innovation and high tech, or now running one of the most successful observatories in the world in terms of public outreach and inspiration. And so I think for me, that's really where it comes from. What are you doing to make a positive impact on people? And I suspect that's common to all of us.
Yeah, I think we all really love to make such a positive impact in our industries and with those we work with. What about you, Manu? What stemmed your love for everything that you do now?
I think, again, I was born and raised in Dubai. And when I started my career in Dubai, I started as a banker. So I've been a quality assurance officer in a bank in Dubai. And when I moved to Sunderland, definitely started from volunteering, getting into the volunteer organizations, and started as business admin, then moved to communications, quality assurance, and did a bit of finance and did project support. And right now, creative digital producer with Sunderland Culture. I think my creative digital side, I would just let COVID be the booster of it. So when COVID initially started, I've always, because of the difficulties I went through, let's say financially, let's say from family, culturally, from society, I always thought there are so many women around who need support, who can't even, they don't know where to reach out to, they don't know who to reach out to, and there's so much support we could provide to them. So when the entire COVID started, I was like, what can we do? I mean, there's so many women out there. I have to be out there for them because I know I can, and I can make other women be there for themselves as well and be there for others as well. So that's when I started my journey in digital production with Young Asian Voices. So I was a communication officer with them. I still am. So they are a BME-led multicultural project, and I started doing everything I could from IT to technology to digital to bridge that digital divide. And I was very scared. I was very concerned for everybody. Please don't be separated. Please don't be isolated. I am here for you and I'll try your best. So it all started from there. It is also one of somebody I knew worked with Microsoft and was into website designing. And I would always see them designing websites, and it was very exciting for me. And I think that was a boost as well. So that's where my journey started, and here I am.
Amazing journey by the sounds of it. Exciting, full of lots of different things. What about you, Jenny with an I? Where did your love for networking and everything you do come from?
Mine, it's a mixture of what the ladies I think have already said, in that, you know, it came from finding something I was passionate about, and that for me was speaking to people and getting to know people, and networking is this amazing vessel that's just an opportunity to meet new people, learn from them, find out about them and their businesses and their journeys and what they're doing. And I fell in love with networking, which then led me to kind of, I guess networking's not really an industry. When you think about, I thought, right, oh well, what's led me to love my industry? Well, it's not really an industry. It will be. I'm making it an industry, but it's not one yet. So I've, like, similar to Catherine, I've done, not as many different things, but I've done, worn a lot of different hats. I started my own business straight out of uni, and then was employed and moved to working in tech and digital and getting to support businesses. And then after having my daughter, I was like, right, if I'm going to be going to work, it needs to be doing what I love most. And for me, that is networking. And there aren't any jobs that involve networking, so I just invented one. And now I get to do what I love, which is helping other people learn how to network and have conversations. And every time I help someone become more a confident, strategic networker, and they go on to meet all these other people that impact their lives, I feel like I've helped them do that. So it's having that impact, like Catherine talked about, and being able to walk away at the end of the week or month or year, like today we said about reflecting, to be able to reflect and go, do you know what, I love what I do, and I help people at the same time. Similar to Jenny with a Y, I'm not making bionic limbs but I'm still helping them in their own different way. So yeah.
I mean, it all sounds amazing, to be honest. And even though you don't work in a particular industry, I imagine you're working across every industry, so you probably get insights that some of us are absolutely not privy to, which I think is maybe a blessing. Where the gaps are. So definitely, I'm almost a little bit jealous. So you get to do networking as your job. If you make it an industry, can you let me know so I can?
It's a couple of years, and yeah, I'll tell you. I'll give you a call. I'll let you know when.
Sorry, Joe. Next question. So, what inspired you to pursue your career? So I know we've kind of touched on it, but was there any particular moment or experience that inspired you to do your job right now? Catherine, was there any particular moment that made you change industries or go into this job?
There's a very critical moment in my childhood which I tell everyone about, because these moments are so important. My husband is a screenwriter and filmmaker and immersive tech specialist, and he calls it the inciting moment. And his inciting moment was meeting a comic strip novelist for Marvel. and at the age of 15, and then he went on to join Marvel at the age of 15 as a writer. So these moments are so critical. My moment was, I think I was at 10, and we were all at school playing in the playground, and we were all dragged indoors to watch the launch of the first ever space shuttle. And I was going, whatever, space shuttle. And we all sit there and we were completely mesmerized, because we realized, subconsciously, I think we realized what we were watching. We were watching the next step in human exploration of space. We were watching the birth of a new space program. But the most critical point about that is that it felt like the whole world was watching with us. It felt like the whole world was celebrating. And for me, creating an environment where people can feel that moment of hope, that moment of revelation, that moment of celebration, that has actually driven most of my career. So I'm a manager of Southpaw Dance Company. It's what we do with our audiences. You can see them transform in front of our eyes. And it's what we do at Kyoto Observatory. We create an environment where people feel connected to this vast cosmos and completely unique within it. And that is profoundly life-changing. So everything about my career has been trying to recreate that moment when I was 10 and I felt the whole world celebrating with us. It was a moment of hope. The really important thing about this, though, is that when I speak to people who are younger than me and I say, what do you remember? What is the moment when the world felt like it stood still? And it's all negative things. It's things like 9/11. And that to me is quite devastating, because I think that moment gave me resilience and creativity and belief that the world could be a better place. And I think if people younger than me don't feel that, then we have a joint responsibility to create these environments where they can experience those profoundly life-changing moments.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I feel like a lot of negativity is always highlighted, but actually all the positives tend to be overshadowed. So yeah, that's actually a very good point. What about you, Anne-Marie? Was there a particular profound moment that inspired you to be like, yes, this is the job I want to be in for many years to come?
I wouldn't say it was a moment, but my father had a demolition company, so the connection to Komatsu, I guess, came from there. I was aware who Komatsu was, what they did, so I think I just thought, I can build diggers, that sounds like fun. So I guess, yes, my father's background and that influence of I grew up knowing what a digger was, what an excavator was, and was possibly a little bit intrigued to see, could I go and work there, and could I build a digger? Maybe for you, Daddy.
Nice, I like it. Yeah, it's good.
That was 27 years, and I am still working here, and this has been the only job that I worked at. So I think that in itself speaks volumes that I went into what's very much classed as a heavy industry, so very male dominated, and it hasn't put me off. And I would absolutely recommend any young girls, any females going into the industry.
Yeah, that's good. It's good to know that you've been there for such a long time, and actually despite everything that women face in engineering, you're still there. It's very comforting and reassuring as such for a beginner engineer as such. What about you, Jenny with a Y? We know you did your drawing competition at 16, but was there anything before that kind of almost sparked your interest into more design or, mechanical things?
Yeah, so actually the sort of deciding moment actually came about 3 years later. So I'm one of those people that I'm interested in everything. I want to do everything. I want to be a doctor. I want to be an engineer. I want to be a farmer. I want to do every job. I just feel like it's not fair that you've got to pick one. And during my time at university, obviously I was doing mechanical engineering, and I had two loves. One of them was biomedical and the other one was Formula One. And I'm not going to lie, they are both still my passions. And I was sort of teetering on the edge, do I try and become a race engineer, or do I become a biomedical engineer? And to be honest, I still have that sometimes. But for me, I'd gone to some lectures about biomedical engineering, and one of the professors there, he was talking about his work and just how it actually impacted people and the need for that work. And I was like, I love Formula One, but this is going to make a difference to individual people's lives. And that was sort of the tiny thing that sort of tipped me over towards the biomedical side. But I do still love them both. But that was my deciding moment.
Yeah, difficult decisions, I feel, yeah. What about you, Mana? Was there a decisive moment that you thought, yes, digital creative industry is where I want to be?
Back in Dubai, when I was with my family, my parents have always been my role models in terms of raising awareness for education as well as togetherness. So I'd always seen my family building that togetherness within communities. When I moved to Sunderland for a period of time, I did face isolation, definitely, because I am new as well and I am totally unaware of so many things going on around. Mm-hmm. And there was this particular person from the community who did mention that women can get nowhere and there is no point for them getting out of homes. And that was the point where I was like, nope, I am going to show you someone from the community can be there. And we all have to, if we don't find role models, we have to be those role models. And we have to inspire, we have to empower all the women around us. Digital industry was very important to me, and that moment was only COVID. It was my chance to utilize that platform to actually connect with women inside their homes, to bring these women together, get them out of isolation. It's not just social isolation as well, there was digital isolation as well that had to be tackled. So creativity is very therapeutic for me. I love colors, I love being creative, I love arts, and this digital platform was just a booster for myself. So that's my story.
I mean, I almost got goosebumps actually when you basically said there's no role models, so I'm gonna be one. Like, that's amazing. That's the kind of stories that we need to share. Yeah. What about you, Jenny, with an eye? What are your thoughts?
So I never had really like an epiphany moment yet. Who knows? I could change careers. You just never know. But I think when I think about like networking and stuff and whatever, my love for it, although I didn't attend a networking event until I was at university, and I took a year out and stuff. So I was like 21, 22. When I was 18, I took a gap year, and because I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was a grown up. Still really don't, but I don't think anyone does. And ended up living in Fiji with nuns and working in a school with deaf kids. And I didn't know sign language, and obviously didn't know Fijian. Luckily, they spoke English. So I grew up in a really small village outside of Carlisle, where I hadn't been subject to like a lot of other cultures and other people. So suddenly I was like 18, living across the other side of the world, and had to learn to talk to other people from different backgrounds. And then after working in the school, I learned sign language, so I was able to talk to the kids, and then traveled on the way home. And traveling at 18, I think of it now, and I meet 18-year-olds, I was like, how did my mum let me do that? But at the time it's just like, yeah, I'll just get on a plane and I'll go somewhere, and then you're in South Africa, and then you're wherever. And a lot of it at the end I was on my own as well. Again, I wouldn't do it now, too many scary movies, but at the time you just staying from backpackers and hostels and getting to meet all these people who had lived a lot more than I had. I was still young, and getting to learn about this whole world that was out there. And that, I think, was probably my first experience of networking, in that I'm getting to meet all these different people who I can learn from and find out about and see how they live and what they think of the world. And it just opened up this world to me. And I think that's probably where my love of networking came from, even though it wasn't called networking. But I think that's probably was a very like defining moment for me, to want to like meet more people and get to know more things and stuff. Yeah,
it definitely sounds like it stemmed some kind of inspiring you to just continue meeting everyone and anyone all over the place, which is amazing. Okay, do you think there are stereotypical gender views relating to your industry? Like, what perceptions do people have of your industry? Anne-Marie, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think my industry, with it being heavy manufacturing, is that you've got to have big muscles, to do this job. But the reality is that's not required these days. But there's a legal limit on what you can lift. of technology development and mechanical lifting devices. I think it comes down to that, physical strength is not an important factor in some of these jobs. So it makes us as a gender, men and women, more equal.
Yeah.
So to say, it sort of closes that gap a little bit with all the development and mechanical things like that. So
you've been there for quite a while, Anne-Marie. Have you seen any changes in the past few years of more women coming into the industry, or?
Absolutely. Sort of, I say when I started, they had to hide the calendars, the male calendars that the men would have. They were. That was one of the things I think the company did. People were taught they had to remove them from the workspace. Oh. But the notion that people were actually allowed calendars, page 3 calendars, I know it was 27 years ago, but it makes you think, really?
Yeah.
At the time when I joined the company, there was one other engineer working in the quality department, and to some extent she did inspire me because I was just a modern apprentice. But and I thought, well, I want to do what she wants to do, and through the company I progressed and did my degree in mechanical and production engineering. But today I've noticed there's a lot more female engineers coming into all the different departments, in design, in quality, in production.
Yeah.
And in the past it was more deemed the females in the office were always office admin roles, and I'm definitely seeing the balance of that switching now, and possibly the other way as well. I'm finding that a lot of males are coming in and doing the more typical admin roles as well.
That's interesting. That's good. What about you, Catherine? Are there any gender stereotypes relating to the industry?
I'm just kind of reflecting my career, and to be honest, not really. I think in all facets of my career, I don't think there's been huge stereotypes. The astronomy community is largely amateur based, so it's driven by grassroots enthusiasm and passion, which is open to anybody. And we get kind of quite a well-balanced demographic, I would say, attending the observatory. Our team is extremely well balanced. We have in terms of male and female. So I don't really think it's a huge issue for us. I think one of the interesting things is the heritage of astronomy and how it was mainly perceived to be created by gentlemen, amateurs who, would kind of just build their own telescopes and look at the sky, like William Herschel and Galileo, and actually the women around them were actually doing really, really important things. They just hadn't been recognised as much. And I think that balance is being redressed now. So it's never been a huge issue in any industry I've been in. I think the one thing that I'm quite proud of is that in the science park industry, where I was before, in the innovation industry, we had quite a typical industrial profile in that there were a lot of women in the workforce, over 50%. But when you got to CEO level or C level, it was mainly men. So I founded the International Association of Science Parks Women's Network to provide role models and to provide representation, and to actually say what is the career pathway from middle management to senior management, because that's the only thing that needed balancing, really.
Yeah, I think that's quite similar to other industries in which there are loads of women at lower levels, but actually at highest, more senior levels within companies, there's actually not that many women taking on high leadership roles. What about you, Mona? Are there any gender stereotypes in the industry you're in? Have you seen any changes in the past few years?
I think when it comes to digital IT technology, there's always this subconscious idea that it's male dominated. Males know better how to run softwares, how to design softwares, what to do with technology. I remember one of my friends was also talking to me about, oh, look at this. There was a female role model doing coding. Oh, it's a woman doing coding. I was like, women, men, they're all human beings. It's a human being who's good at coding. So yes, there are subconscious stereotypes when it comes to the digital media and technology. But then when I started my journey with Sunderland Culture as a creative digital producer, I did look for role models, what other women around in the world are doing. And I did find loads of women in the industry already. And we are leading the way already, and it is also amazing to see most of the organizations right now, they are very focused on inclusion and diversity, so they try to have that demographic in balance. So we are working hard.
Yeah, that's good that it's not actually as bad as other industries. Jenny with a Y, you work in a different area of engineering, you're more research based. Are there any gender stereotypes for you that you've noticed in research? Have you seen any changes?
Yeah, I mean, where I'm at right now, biomedical engineering, I would say, to be honest, there's probably more women, because as with any sort of healthcare based sort of profession, you just do tend to attract more women. It's a caring profession. Those two generally do tend to go hand in hand from my experience. But from mechanical engineering, you know, my background, oh yeah, there's some big stereotypes, and I did really feel those, like as an undergraduate, like you'd visit a company and they would like make a point of being like, we do hire women as well, and I'm like, I'm glad, because it's like 2018, so you know, get with it. You know, and I know that they're just trying to be inclusive, but sometimes it was just so patronizing that I was like, right, you know, but I'm glad now that I am in a more sort of like accepting industry, and I would say research, obviously there's still more like men in research, but I do think like it is a fairly level playing field, because once you get so specialized, there's not really many other people who know about your subject. So me, myself and I.
Yes, yeah, I definitely feel that. And I think I had similar experiences when I did aerospace engineering as an undergrad, and there were 4 women in a class of 400. And I used to frequently get told, oh, you'll have a job because you're a woman. I don't want a job because I'm a woman. I want a job because I'm a skilled professional.
Or being told, oh, you're only here. Yeah, you're only here because they need so many women on the course. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm here because I way outperformed you. Like, that's why I'm here.
Yeah, very true. Jenny with an I, you probably have an interesting perspective because you work across lots of industries. Have you noticed any particular stereotypes or anything that's changed in recent years?
Yeah, I think, as you say, because I get to work with a lot of different people from different industries and backgrounds, there's always going to be some kind of underlying on both sides. I'm one for, like, you know, equality across the board. So if it's like a more female dominated, then you want to make sure that, you know, everyone's got a voice, kind of thing. I think from my perspective personally, obviously the networking industry, I'm still building, and will be no discrimination inclusive whatsoever. However, as an entrepreneur, I spent obviously a lot of time with other entrepreneurs, and I think that's quite male dominated. In, you know, I'm going through accelerator programs and accessing support and finance and stuff, and it's probably more male orientated. But I think as an industry, entrepreneurship's probably viewed as a bit more male, simply because men can be better at shouting about their achievements than women are. I think women traditionally tend to just get their head down and crack on, and we just get it done. Whereas, you know, men are maybe better at the PR than we are, basically, and better at kind of promoting themselves and saying, you know, I've done this, and putting themselves forward for awards. And, you know, women need to do that more and celebrate themselves and their achievements a lot more. So that's probably why that is. But there are so many amazing female entrepreneurs doing a lot of stuff, a lot of side hustles, as well as like main new businesses. I'm in the process of building a new SaaS platform, so I'm going to be going into like working in as a woman in tech, which is, although I've supported women in tech for a long time, I did that job, which I loved, but I've never actually now becoming a woman in tech who's not technical, but I'm starting a techie business. So that's going to be, I think, a whole other exciting realm of challenges. But again, I'm not a quiet one. You'll never guess, but I'm not quiet. So I'm not going to be scared to like put my hands up and go, yeah, women are in tech and we're starting businesses, and we've got companies as well as full-time jobs and kids, and, you know, do whatever. So I think it's like what Manur said earlier, like if you can't see any role models in an area that you want to go into, then you be that role model. And I think that's a really fantastic message for today and for in any industry.
Yeah, definitely. In your thoughts, Jenny, what can both men and women do to help encourage more women and girls into male-dominated industries?
I think it's PR. It's promoting the fact that there are exciting opportunities. I think it comes down to the education system as well. And it's not, don't get me wrong, it's not their fault by any means, but I was listening to what Jenny Wonder was saying about engineering, and I think if in another life I would have made a really good engineer. I'm like proper logical and I love solving problems, but I'm really creative as well, and that's not a job I was ever told was ever an option. And I don't know if that's because I'm a girl or if it's just because of, I don't know, the school I went to or whatever, which was a great school. But I think it's just promoting these opportunities, promoting these jobs, which are things like, that Software City are doing with things like this today, and promoting that women do work in them just the same as men, and saying, look, what are your skills? What are you passionate about as a young person? What do you enjoy doing? And then find a job that you can really, get the best from yourself and apply those skills and talents, because there's going to be a job out there, and if there's not, just invent one.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely sounds like a good way to get a job. Just do what you love, and if there's no job, just make one. Like, what could be better? No, I think the thing with schools is right. I remember, 10 years ago when I was in school, I was told nothing about careers. I think we filled out one of those little quizzes, and it told you what you were going to be, and that was it. That's what most people then went on to be. But yeah, we didn't have any kind of careers or things like this in schools, which is now why we're trying to do it so heavily, I think, and hopefully it will pay off. Anne-Marie, what do you think both men and women can do to help encourage more women into male-dominated industries?
Well, I think just echoing what Jenny said, it is all about trying to encourage people at the right age that you can go into these industries, because, again, what other people have said, when I was at school, you had to make a decision at 16 based on what A-levels you were going to take, and that's really quite young to be deciding what you want to do for the rest of your life. Yeah. But I always felt that, I can remember saying to my careers teacher, I want to be a pilot, and he's laughed at me, sort of type of thing. Well, really, why couldn't I be? I was generally a good all-rounder. I just didn't know what I wanted to be at 16, and I think it is about, at that right age, educating people that you can really, there's a very little gap between male and females. Like, we are human beings, all human beings. There's nothing, trying to really educate women to challenge themselves, to be more creative. Like, to be creative as a woman, it doesn't mean that you have to get the felt tips out and your pencils out. It can be more, let's build a statue, let's make something out of metal, let's make something out of wood. And I think it's just, again, echoing what, like I said, Jenny said about education and trying to get people to understand what's actually involved in the engineering side, because there is a lot. Engineering is a very wide range of skills.
Yeah, it is. And I think a lot of that is just raising awareness of what is involved in it, what kind of skills people need. Yeah, it's very true. What about you, Mana? What do you think men and women can do to encourage more women and young girls into typically male-dominated industries?
I think the answer is in the question itself. Like, men and women need to encourage, and that is the main source of empowerment and encouragement as well. And like Jenny was saying, it's about also flaunting your success. Like, us from our own industries, we need to flaunt our own successes. We need to also, not just our own, we need to flaunt our peers' successes. That's how we can create that exposure. We need to give women that exposure, that platform for exposure as well. I think these are main ways through which we could encourage them. And I think confidence is a major point as well. We need women not only to be confident, but to also be self-confident and also have belief in themselves that they can do it. If one of us could do it, they definitely can do it as well. So flaunting the success.
Yes, I think that's a very good thing. I mean, I personally I'm really shy about flaunting my successes, even though I know they're great. I'm very much like, oh, I'm actually not going to tell anyone. So maybe I should start showing off my successes more.
Showing off, Amy. Flaunt it, flaunt it, flaunt it. Yeah.
What about you, Catherine? What do you think? Is there any way men and women can both equally help more women into typically male roles and industries?
I'm not sure there is a typically male role. I think we need to get rid of that thinking for a start. And I think, we're all talking about being more confident and showing off and flaunting. And actually that's just adapting to the system that's in place at the moment, rather than actually changing the system so it accommodates women's natural inclinations. And I think I did a lot of work with the North East Chamber of Commerce about this very topic. And essentially, we all need to challenge our own unconscious bias, because we all do it. And, I have a horror story of walking into a room and assuming that the white middle class man was in charge, when actually it was the young black woman who was in charge. And, we all have unconscious bias, and we all need to train ourselves out of that. That is the one thing I think that we should all do, men and women, because once we're aware of it, as someone just said, we can start to challenge. We can start to go, oh, hang on a second, yeah, because we're all guilty of it. We're all working in this system. Yeah. I think there's definitely things that companies can do in terms of representation and imagery and language. There's definitely things that companies need to do in terms of data and how they measure success, because we talk about inclusion and diversity, but what's it for? We all assume that a greater plurality of voice leads to a better outcome. I happen to believe in that. But how do you measure that? So we are about to go out for board development, and of course we want to hear from different voices. Of course we want to be inclusive, but neither do we want to exclude talent that happens to be white, male, middle class as well. We have to be very, very careful about all this, the language that we're using. We have to know what it means to us. It can't just be a box ticking exercise. So that's what I would say. And I think for young girls, because we've been talking a lot about education at the moment and representation, don't worry about your career plan. About 5 years ago, someone at a course came up to me and said, oh, I really admire you, and what was your career plan? I went, what career plan? I never had one. I just took advantage of opportunities that were presented to me. I went after opportunities, and I delivered, and I over-delivered, and therefore I was always on to the next thing, always on to the next mission. And I think that personal sense of resilience and creativity and being on a mission actually just knocks over most barriers.
Yeah, that is very true. I like that you gave advice about not having a career plan, because I don't think I know anyone who's had a career plan from the age of 16 and actually followed through with it, with zero issues at least anyway. So I think that's very good.
I was going to be a lawyer when I was 16, and then I went for work experience in law firm. Went, no, this is dull. This is dull. And some of my best friends are lawyers, don't get me wrong. But, it wasn't for me. So I flipped to saying, well, what do I enjoy right here, right now? And it was arts and culture and history. And so I did English, Latin and ancient history for A-levels. And people will go, well, that's useless. I went, no, because actually it's grounded me for my whole career.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's definitely some good advice. Jenny with a Y, what about you? Do you think there's anything that both men and women can do to get more women into research?
Yeah, definitely. This is something I talk about with my colleagues a lot, and something I do in my spare time is I go into schools and I do a lot of like STEM outreach, and I show them like fun science stuff. So this is from my own personal experience. But the one thing that I think personally is holding girls back, is holding women back, is girls tend not to pick up those soft skills like bigging yourself up that boys do. This is just echoing what Jenny with an I said, because girls, if they get one thing wrong, that's it, they feel like this is it, I can't do it. And plus there's the mockery there as well. So just using Formula One as an example, if you don't know one thing about it, someone's like, oh, you only like it for the drivers or something like that, and it puts girls off because they have that extra pressure to deal with of being mocked for you don't actually like it for the reason you need to like it. And plus, from my personal experience, more worried about getting things wrong and showing themselves up, whereas with the schools I go into, boys will go, it's this, and they'll get it wrong 10 times and they don't mind and they'll just keep going. Whereas girls, if they get one thing wrong, they're like, oh, that, I can't do it. And I do think that is a soft skill that can be taught, and I do think that could push women forward. And I see this all the way through into research, from schools all the way to careers. Those soft skills, I think, are something that both men and women, if they see, they can try and encourage those in their colleagues and in their friends, and that's something particularly companies can do as well, because the data shows girls are just as capable as boys. We've got the intelligence, we've got the creativity, but I think sometimes, like as Jenny and I said, the soft skills, you just don't pick those up in schools. But that's just from my personal experience, and it's the same for I would want to be an advocate for, if there's an industry that's got more women than men, I would also want to encourage that as well.
Yeah. Going forward from that, what other barriers do you think women and girls in school face? If they're thinking about going into engineering, what kind of barriers do you think they would face?
I mean, obviously the stereotypes are a big problem, because I've seen that over and over again. Oh, that's not for girls. I know that sounds like it's archaic, but you do still get told that. But even recruiters, and you can't believe this still goes on in this day and age, but I've been told by more than one recruiter they wouldn't hire me in case I got pregnant. And I know that's illegal, but that has been said. They've said it in a soft way, but that's what they've said. And just things like that. It's crazy that this still happens. And you wouldn't think, they're not saying we don't hire women, but by saying I wouldn't be comfortable because you might get pregnant, you kind of are saying that. So you wouldn't think these barriers still exist, but I think just challenging those in the workplace and feeling comfortable to do so really needs to be encouraged, because it's so hard to speak out. If someone says something sexist to you, it can really put you off. If someone says something like, oh, I wouldn't hire her because, and they make a comment about a woman's body, feeling comfortable to challenge that is really important.
I'm a little bit shocked that that's actually happened, that wasn't an excuse for not hiring you. I can't believe that, 2020, in this year, that's still going on.
This was about 2-3 years ago now, but to hear that from a HR manager, you're like, oh, really?
That's quite shocking. What I can see you shaking your head, Jenny, with the no. What are your thoughts on that and other barriers?
That honestly, do you know what? The worst thing about it is it doesn't surprise me, but it is absolutely shocking. And there's an organisation in the UK called Pregnant Then Screwed, which are doing amazing things. A lady called Jolie set it up. She got to the top of, did amazing in her career, had a child, and was told that she couldn't come back to work on reduced hours, even though she knew she could deliver the job. And she set up this organisation, and she's fighting for women's rights in paying the penalty tax that we have to pay as females, because we're the ones that give birth. That's the difference between men and women. Neither are better or worse, but women, we have got the kit to make the babies, and that can't change. And it's a gift, it's a curse, it's wonderful and painful, but that's something that, it takes time to grow a baby, and it takes time to get over having birthed one, and nurturing, and takes time to look after a child. And that's the penalty that we pay. And we do pay for it. We pay for it financially. We pay for it with job opportunities. And that is a barrier to potentially some opportunities depending on the company. Do you know what, Jenny, why I'm glad you didn't get a job there, because if that's the kind of company, I don't want you working there anyway. So
Thank you.
As female leaders in our industries, it's our responsibility to create companies and company cultures where it's celebrated when our staff get pregnant, and it's celebrated when they start a family and they expand their family. And any barrier, especially that comes from such an amazing thing, that should never, because it should never be a barrier to developing your career, because it makes you different and hustle. And I can multitask like a beast these days. Tell you, I get more done in 10 minutes than I ever would have got done in 2 hours. And so becoming pregnant should be celebrated. And I think there's a, that as a barrier it's still here, and in this day and age, like you said, Amy, it shouldn't be, but it is. But I think a lot of that, similarly, menopause is something that we don't speak about in our culture, in society, but every single woman will go through menopause at some stage in their life. Not every woman will get pregnant, but every woman will go through menopause. It could happen in their 30s, it could be in their 60s. But again, I think it's about changing cultures within companies to be able to support women through that and support their amazing, talented staff that they've employed, and not stop them or prevent them from opportunities in being able to be the best version of themselves that they can in their job, and being the most productive that they can, and adding value to the companies that they work for, simply because of biology and how we're built. It's bonkers. Society misses out on they miss out on the contributions that women could be making if these stereotypes were taken away and opportunities weren't taken away.
Yeah, that is very true. I can't believe that that's a barrier that is still around today. What about you, Mina? What are the barriers you think young women and girls face when they start their careers?
I think Jenny just reminded me of one of my colleagues back in Dubai. So whenever we used to have a vacancy, that colleague, he used to go around requesting everyone, please don't hire a woman this time because they're just going to go on maternity leave. He used to joke around about it. But then the thing is, it's about perceptions as well. That is instilling in everyone's heads. I just hope someday this is not an issue anymore. Gender equality is equality. For men and women, equality is equality. It doesn't have to be for a specific gender, for a specific ethnicity, for a specific group of people. I just hope someday this is normal. But apart from gender equalities as well, we do face different stereotypes, especially coming from a BME background, especially coming from a Muslim background. Mm-hmm. There are other stereotypes, there are other issues, societal pressures you face. I remember when I got my new job as well, I was congratulated, but then there are also comments coming up saying, oh, you got the job because it was just for a tick box kind of thing. They also told me you got a job because you're a Muslim, just because you're a BME. But then it is also about how to cope with these comments, how to cope with the society. I was like, it's fine, even if it is a tick box. For now, it is an issue the world is facing. It is an issue the world is coping with. For now, if it is a tick box, it is my opportunity to showcase what women can do. It is my opportunity to use this platform to show what BME women are. So I will take this opportunity and I will make the best of it. So yep, society again, and then judgment again. And that judgment on women cannot do this job because they think differently. Everyone has the same brain. Yes, we have different levels of understanding, different levels of IQ, but we can all do the same jobs.
Yeah, very true. We definitely can. Catherine, what do you think, what other barriers do you think are present for women?
I just want to pick up on the tick box point actually first, because, forgive me, but it seems to be in government you have to tick the box of going to Eton and Oxford, and if you tick those boxes, that's fine. So tick boxes work for men and women, and so if we get a tick box, I have no problem with that. So I think we have to be aware of the structures we're working in. Barriers, I don't really, because the field I'm in is so driven by amateurs and passion enthusiasm, I don't really see the barriers at this point. I think I'm deeply concerned by the effect of social media on young women, and I it's impossible, I say, but probably my big message to young women is just get off social media, because it's toxic and it's poisonous, and the emphasis on how women look as to what women do, I think, is a barrier, a real barrier to women's success. And it's probably not practical, but that's my big message, is just get off social media, or at least don't take it seriously. And I think what we're all talking around is the point that we all made at the very beginning, which is resilience, because we are correcting centuries of imbalance, and we're doing it very quickly. And people have to adjust. Everyone, not just women, not just men, everyone has to adjust. And I think most people are trying to do that the best they can. And that needs to be recognised and celebrated. And we're not going to do this overnight, but we are going to, but it will happen. Mm-hmm. So, and some of that adjustment comes out like, oh my God, they're going to get pregnant. It's hard. So, but having that resilience and being on that mission where those comments don't matter and you can just get through it, I think is really important. So finding who you are and what you're here to do is the most important thing.
Yeah, very true. Anne-Marie, what about you? Have you noticed any barriers that young women face?
No, I think it goes down to the company, whether they're forward thinking, what culture they have in the company. I can imagine a lot of the larger companies have policies, good culture practices, but I can imagine some of the smaller companies who are possibly run by mainly male employees don't want to employ women. The barrier is what we've already spoken about. They think, oh, what happens if she'll get pregnant, etc.
Yeah, very true. Okay, last question. What is your key advice or message to young women looking to begin their careers? Catherine, do you want to go first?
Yes, I'm going to quote, we have a fantastic team of astronomers, and one of them is Natalie Shahi, and she was born in Iran and raised in Manchester, and she did astrophysics and now works for us as a science presenter and astronomer. She's the most amazing woman, as they all are. But she was asked her advice by North of Tyne Combined Authority. What would she say to her younger self? And she said, you are as entitled to hold a voice and a space in this field as the next person. And remember that.
That is good advice.
I was very, very proud of her.
Yeah, that's very true. That really makes you think as well. And it's something that I think a lot of people will take note of and remember. When deciding things. So yeah, that's a really nice piece of advice. What about you, Anne-Marie? Any advice to younger women looking to start their careers?
Just challenge yourself. Step outside that stereotypical box that engineering, manufacturing is a male industry. Just don't be scared to challenge yourself.
Okay, yeah, that's good. It's always nice to challenge yourself, push your limits, see what your boundaries are. I think it's really important to challenge yourself throughout your entire career, not just at the start. What about you, Mino? What advice would you give to young women and girls looking to start their careers?
I think I would advise them to prepare themselves, find your passion, explore yourself, look what exactly you're very passionate about. And once you know what you want to be, you need to search. I think search is the most important tool. If ever I had to teach anything to women to start from scratch, I would literally teach them how to use the internet to search. So search for role models, have a good mentor to guide you along the way, have a sponsor who would put you forward when the time is right, have just keep upskilling yourself and just have training and search.
Great advice. I mean, I think when I first started job hunting, I had no idea where to look or what to do. So I think that would be, a really key thing for girls to know, is just to know how to search for things. Jenny with a Y. Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah, it's just that I used to keep telling women around me, there are just billions of people around the world, and there is nothing that is not possible. If one person doesn't know it, definitely one among the billions of people will know it. There's always a solution.
That is very true, and a little bit comforting to know, actually, I think, when you're really stuck and feeling on your own. Jenny with a Y, how about you? Any key advice to give?
Yeah, so first thing, just seconding what Mano said, because again, school has a habit of teaching you, there's one way to do things. Like, you go to school, you go to university, you get the relevant degree, and then you just somehow magically get the job. But in reality, there's so many different paths. And I think what Jenny with an I said, making your own space, if it doesn't exist, make that space. And just looking for people who've gone into the job that you want to go into. You might go and look on their LinkedIn profile or something, and you'll see that their path, it wasn't clear cut. It wasn't school, college, university, job. It was sometimes, they might have done an internship, they might have made their own company. And just seeing that, there's not just one way to do things. But overall, I just think believe in yourself, because if there's one thing that's held me back, it's thinking, I'm only good enough to do this. Like, when I was at university, I had it in my head, like, oh, if I could just get a 2-1, I'll be so proud of myself. And then in my last year, I went, actually, why am I aiming for a lower grade than what I can get? Why am I not aiming for the top? And it was weird because when I was thinking, you know, the best I can do is a 2-1, the best I was getting was a 2-1. And then suddenly I tell myself, why am I not aiming for first? Why am I not aiming for top marks? And honestly, it was like something just clicked in my brain, because I suddenly started getting those marks, and I hadn't got more intelligent in like overnight. You know, it was just a self-belief issue. I was holding myself back. And I think that's one thing that girls can really do, is honestly just trust yourself and don't be scared to fail.
Yeah, it's amazing how girls can downplay their skills and think that they can't achieve something when actually they can. What about you, Jenny, with an eye? Any last piece of advice?
Well, as a I've always got something to say. As a networker, obviously from me, no matter what job you do or what career path you go down or industry you want to explore, the best thing that I think anyone can do is learn how to talk to other people, learn how to empathize with other people, build relationships, learn how to make eye contact with another human. I know that obviously this last year we've not been allowed to be in person and, you know, really build relationships. But if you can learn how to network, make friends with, nurture relationships with colleagues, with people you encounter, whatever, you know, at school, at university, in your jobs, building positive relationships will open up so many opportunities, and you'll find so many exciting new things that will come from relationships and conversations. So if you can teach yourself those soft skills, those learning how to have a conversation with another person in person where you're comfortable enough to share yourself and get to know someone else, no phones, get the phone out the room, put it away, because even having the phone in the room has shown that humans, we don't open up as much because we always think, oh, we might get interrupted. So get rid of the phones, like Catherine said, switch off the social media. It's ridiculous. We use it, but it's ridiculous. And just learn how to build relationships with each other, and start with your classmates, start with the people that you're sat next to, talk to someone, you know, learning how to speak to strangers, and it'll change your world and open up so many opportunities in your career and your personal life as well.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I think being able to communicate with lots of other people and build relationships is so important in every aspect of life. Yeah. All amazing advice. Guys, that's all my questions. You answered amazingly. I have definitely learned an awful lot and got lots of insights. I don't know about you guys. And hopefully the students that we send this to will also get lots of insight and advice and take away all the key messages. So yeah, that's it. I mean, we'll be posting some stuff on social media and sending this out, and of course I can send you the video. But yeah, that's pretty much everything. I don't know if anyone had anything else to say. I'm going to stop recording now anyway, so